around you. Thirdly, you also get to uncover and upgrade your true life purpose and your unique source code gifts and superpowers so that you can create massive value in the world and start manifesting your own dream life, business, or creative success in the process. Enjoy today's episode of the Transformational Ripple Effect. And if you find it resonates powerfully with you, then be sure to go and visit edlester.com/help to find out how the Transform 3 Mastermind can help you live your very best and most impactful and abundant life too.
The topic of the day is all about financial abundance and wealth and money and all those kind of things. And I don't want to frame things too much for Leisa because she'll do a great job of that herself. But I do want to say one thing that's really important is that when it comes to this topic, people immediately go to very specific places in their mind and in their consciousness. People get triggered, buttons get pressed. Any talk to do with money and financial abundance and financial well-being tends to provoke traumas. It can tap into our deepest fears, scarcity, childhood programming, all of that stuff. And if you're not careful, what happens? You get entrenched, you go to this place and you start to filter and to have these biases, and you start to listen through very clouded filters, which is damaging. It's not even so much it's damaging, it's limiting. It limits what you'll get from the conversation. So Lisa's a very special person in terms of what she brings to the table with her compassion, her kindness, a lot of those positive values, spirituality, a lot of the positive values and the energetic values that I know a lot of people here today share. And that's why she's the perfect person to bring this information and to share today. So what I would urge when you've got this gift, this opportunity, is to literally forget everything you know about the topic. Just literally clean your mind, clear your consciousness, just approach this with a very, very, very fresh learner's mind. To me, the reason this is important is that we're surrounded today in our community, just the people on the call today and all the people that will be watching this later and all the people that are involved here. These are people that want to do good in the world. They want to have a positive impact. They want to help others. And I'm really obsessed with the fact that 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times more people could be being helped if this piece of the puzzle was solved. Because it's not just about money being magnetized to value. That would be wonderful if that was all it was. It's actually money being magnetized to the perception of value. And a lot of people here today, well, a lot of people in my world are very bad when it comes to letting people know about the value they bring, and they hide themselves, they quieten themselves, they make themselves small. The world doesn't realize how much they can help. And a lot of that's to do with the topic of the day. So if we can fix this piece of the puzzle in some way, a lot more people are going to be helped. And that might sound idealistic, but it's actually very pragmatic. And that's why it drives me crazy when people could be being helped and they're not being helped because the good people are hiding themselves away for reasons I think Lisa's going to very much tap into. So Lisa, I hope that helps. I don't want people coming in with preconceptions and the old biases and the old fears. I think if they come in fresh, that they can really get the most value from what's definitely a gift for them today, just having you here.
Hello, everyone. I just want to say what an honor this is to be with all of you. And I'm pretty sure it was over 10 years ago when I first reached out to Ed after picking up one of his abundance-oriented audio recordings. And I remember the impact that it made in my life and really set me up for what I do today. And so it's such an honor to be with all of you because I love Ed, and I'm pretty sure we're going to get to meet in person in a couple months, which is a total highlight because I'm coming to his neck of the woods. But thank you all for being here. I really appreciate you. And so I'm going to share my screen and we will get started. So everybody see that? Hopefully I'm seeing it pop up. But before, just like echoing what Ed said, before we dive into any strategies or plans today, I just want to acknowledge something important, that there's a good chance some people are overwhelmed by money and the topics that we're going to dive into today, and that's totally normal. And what I also notice for a lot of people, no matter where you are on the planet, a lot of us are tired of trying lots of things when it comes to creating more financial security, but then still feeling stuck. confused by like all the noise out there about what you should be doing and unsure if what you're doing is the right thing. Um, I also feel like, having been a financial advisor for way back, people get tired of like just having these arbitrary financial goals that don't feel relevant to life. And so this conversation today is about stuff that we don't learn in school. Many times we don't learn at any other place than conversations like this. And my goal is to really empower you to have more choices in life, to understand this bridge that I think Ed and I are very focused on around, the inner world that we experience, and then how that shows up in the outer world. And in this case, with money, I'm totally obsessed with that conversation. But it's all about empowerment. And the reason these topics mean so much to me is I used to be a financial advisor. I left that world almost 11 years ago because I saw that something crucial was missing. I watched my own parents struggle with debt when I was growing up and living under constant stress when I just couldn't really do much because I was young. And they couldn't figure out how to manage their money. And I think it taught me early in life that I needed to take control. They unfortunately passed away way too early in life, never experiencing the freedom that I think they and everybody else wants. And so it taught me something profound, which is when we know that we're going to be okay financially, it transforms everything in our life, like our stress, our choices, and our entire lives. And I just want to check in for a moment. Just, does that resonate with you? Like, can you relate to those feelings of like, you just want to have some peace of mind as it relates to money? Like, I'm guessing everybody does, but I would love it if we
Yeah,
made this
people can maybe type
interactive.
into the chat, Lisa. People may maybe type into the chat and yeah, just let us
Yeah,
know that
yeah, like
this is
totally
this is the kind of thing
fair.
that's interesting to you and is going to be valuable to you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Dana says good morning. Rhonda says yes. Pam says yes. Absolutely, definitely. It's coming through thick and fast now. So yeah, no, definitely on topic. Definitely on
Yeah,
topic
thank
there,
you
Lisa.
so much. Yeah, and I want to share. Ed had encouraged me to share a little bit. Sometimes I dive into this and I don't share very much about myself. And Ed reminded me that it's important to kind of know a little bit more about me before we dive into this. And so hopefully this is helpful to you, but I'm always a little shy about it for some reason. But I will say this, a little bit about my backstory. I started studying finance and worked in finance for many years, but unfortunately, I had a lot of tragedies that occurred that awakened me to my spiritual journey. My father was murdered in 1999, and that devastating moment began a spiritual journey that would take me around the world as it pertains, like studying ancient wisdom traditions, trying to gain a profound understanding of both the darkness and the light in life. And it brings me to today, but through studying like spiritual, religious healing practices like Ed, NLP, tapping, EFT, I sought answers all along. And what I ultimately came to understand, unfortunately, after another tragedy in 2013, was that I needed to be able to hold the darkness of life, whether that be with money or with early death or with the challenges of life, and not be destroyed by it. And I found that my understanding of money and my understanding of spirituality could create a bridge in the world that would really make a difference in people's lives. And I'm just going to be sharing like a little bit of that with you today. But this is what inspired me to do the work that I do. So 11 years ago, I left my work as a financial advisor. I started this coaching business. I wrote a book called The Mindful Millionaire. Now I host my primary focus is just making an impact in the world. My husband and I have reached financial freedom, if you will, and we'll talk more about what that means. But as a result of that, I'm able to focus all of my work on making a bigger impact in the world. So I host retreats, I write books, I get invited to speak. I've been given awards, like things that would have only been in my dreams 10 years ago, like not even possible, have happened all as a result of the work that I do. And I know, Ed, you wanted me to mention that, but anything like, is that helpful, or is there anything else I should mention?
Yeah, no, I think that's wonderful, Leisa, and very, very generous of you to share your own story. I mean, it's always difficult for people sharing their own story. I think that's one of the things people here struggle with, is actually not talking about themselves versus talking too much about themselves. It's finding that sweet spot that people are comfortable with, and really helps people to tap into their own story and their own. I mean, some of the things that you've been through in your story, like when you talk about 2013, it's like something really big had to happen for you to really go on that journey in the way that that you have. But I think it's also, there's a lot of kind of, I don't know, I'm going to ask you this, Leisa. In the whole 2013 thing, were there signs and signals from the universe before that, more subtle signs leading up to it?
Yeah, there really was. I get a little emotional about it, but I want to share it because it's coming up. So I really wanted to speak at this conference called Wisdom 2.0 in San Francisco. I was still a financial advisor, but I had already started to explore deeply with my clients this bridge between like the inner experiences with money and the outer experiences. And so I signed up to submit a video, and the video for this speaking at this conference, ultimately I didn't get chosen, but I filmed this video. It was the first time I'd ever been on video, right? Like this is, 2013, right before Christmas. I filmed this video over and over and over again one morning, and I didn't know if I was on the right track or anything, but I had to stop because I had a doctor's appointment. And I left to go to that doctor's appointment. And that was when I was at one of these shootings. A man walked into my doctor's office. He pulled out a large gun. He said, "You might want to leave now." And he went on a shooting rampage. And he killed my doctor, and he shot several people in the doctor's office. And when I lived through it, and I talk about this in my book, in The Mindful Millionaire, I had this out of body experience because I had been daily meditating for now 14 years. Like I knew how to help myself. And I sort of froze in the middle of this chaos when people were trying to get out of the building. And in that moment, completely filled with terror, I realized that I wasn't my fear. And that in that moment, I thought to myself, if I live through this experience, I'm going to walk away from what I was doing because I have a much bigger purpose in this life. And there are no coincidences. At that time, I didn't know my doctor had been killed, but I just knew that this was like a sign from the universe that I needed to do something bigger and help more people with what I had learned. So yeah, I did get the signs. I just wasn't listening to them. And I just kept coming up with little steps, not the big step, which was to walk away and start this new life.
Yeah. The reason I asked you that, Leisa, is I think a lot of people here, I can certainly say that the same, we get those signals, we get those signs and those signals to change path. Maybe not dramatically, but just 1%, shift 1%. You just need to slightly change what you're doing. And it's the universe telling us that, or whatever. We're getting those messages. And I think, don't ignore them. I think that's the message. Don't ignore them because they'll keep coming back. I think it's like health in some ways. And I'm certainly not a health expert, but I think we get little warning signs. And it's like, if we listen to them, great. If we don't, they're just going to get bigger. And I think that's it kind of works that way. And your story really highlights to people, don't wait. You've got something to offer, you've got something to give, you've got a purpose, you've got the opportunity to have an impact and make a difference. It doesn't mean you've got to jump all in. It just means keep making those changes, keep shifting, and good things are going to happen. And I think your story is it's a big story, but there's some real positives that come from it, and I think people can see that in the work that you've been doing and the impact that you've had.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for letting me share that. But um, perhaps it really hits home the importance of like having our financial house in order, because I did have that and it did give me the freedom, even though it was super scary to like start what we're doing. But now I want to like transfer to you, and I want everyone to be thinking about their own situation, because while I'm going to show you some ways of positive change, I also want to acknowledge that the way that we talk about money is what shapes our relationship with it. Like, it's very, very powerful. And we can even do a little bit of an exercise with chat, perhaps. But I'd love it if we could like call out some phrases that you've heard people use about money, maybe even ones that you've used yourself. But these statements, you know, I'm bad with money, or I don't know very much about money. Like, I really want you to tune in, because that's going to help us establish the energy of like what we're here to change or to shift or to become more conscious of. Yeah, this is really powerful. Money doesn't grow on trees. We can't afford it 100%. What else? Like, what are, you know, money's the root of all evil, that like terrible teaching, or it's it's something that holds me back, or I
Yeah,
only
that's
want
a big
enough to
one.
be comfortable. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I don't want too much.
Yeah, yeah, because of the concern of what might happen. Yeah, you have to work hard for money. I don't really understand how money works. Yeah, like even as we're sharing this, just feel into that constriction that Ed was talking about. Like, this is what I felt 10 years ago. This is what scared me about like making a change, even though it was the beliefs even more than the money that were affecting me. And that's really how it is for all of us. The ways that these conversations in our head, or the conversations that we're surrounded by, the impact that they can make in our lives. And I just want to honor that this is happening for us, but also the importance to really get familiar with those comments, those thoughts, those experiences, and question them. Like, in the book, I encourage people to like write them down and say, well, is that really true? Right? We could use Byron Katie's work, like the 4 questions. Like, do something every time you notice that you've got a belief coming up. And today's conversation is going to give you some ideas of why it's so valuable to question the ideas. But even with what you just wrote, how about we do this? Go back to whatever you wrote. And I would love it if you could take some time, anytime today we're together, transform it into a growth oriented statement. Like, what would that look like on the other side? What would be the turnaround belief on what you're thinking? And even if you didn't share before, you can share now. But I'd love to see like, what's the exactly, I'm a money magnet, right? Who would you like to be? What kind of beliefs do you want to have that fill up that experience of what you just shared, that change it and change the profound nature of how you see money? Because, you know, with Ed, like, it all starts in like, what are you telling yourself? What are you going to repeat over and over again? Because right now, my guess is we're repeating those other comments over and over again. Are you with me, Ed? Like, this
Yeah,
idea.
no, I don't want to jump in. I'm
You're
very
good. I would
aware
rather it be
of
this
not,
way.
yeah, I'm very aware of not stepping on your toes or anything like that. So I'm very careful. But it's really interesting, that question. There's some fascinating stuff coming through in the chat. And a lot of people are saying, thank you, Leisa, for sharing your story and giving, you know, it really helps people to connect with why you're doing what you're doing and what you're really all about here. And that's great. But the thing I was going to say, my parents who, you know, my mum's still with us, but my parents are, they're wonderful people. But one of the things, it's sometimes more subtle. The guys here in the group have been learning about NLP and NLP language patterns. And one of those patterns is the word they. Now, if you talked about an ethnic community and said they, that's really bad. Like, you're not supposed to do that. You can't say they all do this or they all do that. That's terrible, you know? But for some reason, when it comes to wealthy people and abundant people, my parents were able to say they. And you don't need to say anything else. It's just they are like this, they do that, they are different. This word they, it's like there is this other species of people, and they're not like us. They are different. You know, my mum and dad came from working class backgrounds. You know, working in America, it could be middle class. I don't know. I don't understand the context of that. But basically, they always worked. Their parents always worked. The rich people, and I grew up in England, which is very segmented in that way. Like the rich people, the landowners, the aristocracy, whatever, they are different. And that word they takes a lot of unpacking. And I'm not even going to start with turning that into a growth thing. I'll let you maybe talk about that. But this idea that there's us and them, it was huge, I think, in my opinion. But I never realized it. It's just dawned on me more recently. And with your question, it's really jumped out the word they, like they. Who are they? You know?
Yeah, yeah. Dana's saying still is. Yeah. I had the good fortune, even though I came from, like my mom cut hair, my dad was a truck dispatcher when he was employed. He sold drugs to like supplement the family income. Like we were lower middle class, very cash oriented because of the business my mom was in. So maybe she made more, but we never had money. Like it was always a problem. And just the way that I was raised around money is completely different than the life I live today. Like 150% different. And maybe that's why I'm so excited to have these conversations, because I know if I can change with the roots that I had, and going back to they, what made me think of like my own story is when I was in college. I went and kind of escaped California and lived in New York City for a summer. And I became like, created a whole new personality. I was really depressed. I was really struggling in life. It was a crazy story for another time. But when I came home, I was a different person and I attracted different people into my life. My husband was met within a very short amount of time of me coming back from New York. Also, my best friend. Well, my best friend's father, who I began to get to know, was extremely successful business person. And she would invite me to Los Angeles and we would go to LA. We're here like juniors in college, and we would go to the most like popular, famous restaurant in Los Angeles and be surrounded by celebrities. And they'd be talking to us like we were famous, but we weren't, of course. And I got to see a side, and her father was incredibly generous, incredibly kind, so much money. Anything they wanted to do was possible. And I got to hang out with that for many years. And it changed that they against us or them against us. Like, I was like, I just want to have money because they have a lot of fun and they're really kind and they're really generous. And so just by hanging out with her changed my idea of like, I want to be rich someday. Like, what if they could do it? Why can't I? Can you feel that, Ed?
Yeah, it's an awesome affirmation that people need to be that, you know, I talk a lot about affirmations and how they've got to have that growth structure in them. There's got to be something shifting and changing. And I think that's the they, it's challenging. Who are they? What I never said to my mum and dad, what do you mean by they? Who are they? Those kind of challenges never came up, but it would be an interesting one now. Like what did they mean by they, and who are they? And what if I was they, if I was one of them, what would I do? Wow, I do cool stuff. I had a friend, Leisa. He was an amazing friend of mine. He's an Irish publican. When I was young, I met this guy. He's very inspiring, very creative, hanging out with artists, but he was always dressed scruffily. He was never interested in money for the sake of money. But he grabbed me by the arm. He said, "Ed, it'd be great to have £1 million, $1 million." And I was like, "Oh, you'd like to be a millionaire?" He said, "I'd love to have £1 million." And I was like, "Why? No, what?" Like, I never thought that would be of interest to you. And he grabbed me by the arm. He had a big grin on his face. He said, "Imagine how much good we could do with that money." And I got that. It's like, yeah, it's like you become one of them in terms of having that money. What you do with it is your choice. Surely you define what they means. Surely you define what that means, not somebody else, not my mum and dad. You.
Yeah.
And that, and I'm kind of, I'm constructing this as I go. I haven't put two and two together before. Your questions are helping me to put two and two together. But you do. I mean, if they and them and those people is an issue to you, well, think about if you were one of them, what would you do? And it might be quite exciting.
Yeah, 100%. So I want to talk about two things, and then we're going to open it up to questions because I'm sure these are going to inspire some questions, but I'll wait. So then we can just, because there's two different concepts that I want to introduce you to today. One was what Ed had talked about, which is like the financial, what I'm going to call like a high level map of the stages we go through as we build wealth, as we get out of instability and go into, growth and financial independence or whatever's important to you. But before I even dive into that, I want to talk about one other thing, and I'm going to bring up a slide because it's all about what type of planner you are. And what I found in working with people for many, many years is that we are all different and we all have different ways of engaging in the world and the ways that we create in the world. And so I just want to talk about this because how you approach what I'm about to share with you and what you do with it later is going to have a lot to do with which of these or a blend of the two you find yourself falling into. Okay. So the first one that I want to talk about is this, what I wrote, spreadsheet superstar. I come up with different names for this, but this is a question for you. Are you or do you know someone who has their entire life organized on a spreadsheet? Maybe you're that person, but let me paint the picture. These are people who have, use spreadsheets, tracking, planning. They're like the super planners in the world. So you love nothing more than a good planning session. You track your every penny with religious dedication. Maybe you have color-coded systems for things. So some people are just this way. They love, love, love planning. I love to-do lists. Exactly, Dana. You might find yourself feeling like this the spreadsheet superstar, but some of us are that way. I'm probably a blend of these two, but I'll keep going so you can see what the other one is. But I'll say this too. Sometimes the super organized folks can get so caught up in having the perfect plan that they actually forget to take action. Okay, so analysis paralysis can be real for people who really like to plan. Okay, the action piece is the challenge. Then we also have folks who are what I'm going to call spontaneous spirit. These are folks who make decisions based on a gut decision or a gut feeling, love taking action, but don't necessarily have all the details that they need. So they just dive into it and run, and try as they go. Get excited about opportunities. They jump in and out of things, and sometimes forget to pay attention to things like account balances before making purchases, or I don't know, lots of things like that. But you're great at seizing opportunities, but the challenge, sometimes the opportunities haven't been fully vetted before they move forward. So, and then some of us can be blends of the two, just saying, and especially in different areas of our lives. Like you might like to really plan your vacations, but you don't like to plan when it comes to finance. And so I just want to mention this because how we engage in planning is really, really important to know about ourselves, because just that realization is going to help us understand how to help ourselves going forward. Does that make sense? Ed, you were laughing on this spontaneous one. Anything you want to say on that?
Yeah. I was laughing because I'm probably, in terms of archetypes, I'm very much on that side. I mean, I do make lists and I plan, but the plan will change the next day. And, so I've had to be very strategic. I've learned to be a lot more strategic and mission led, because that means wherever you bounce all over the place, you end up on the, with a path. Keeps you on a path. But I don't walk the straight path. I'm dancing all over the place. But the path is there. I think that's probably what I've learned over time. I admire the spreadsheet superstar archetype. I really admire those people. I think opposites attract, and I love hanging out with those people because you get the whole yin and yang kind of balance. But no, I was laughing because you were describing me. Yeah, and I think probably other people were
Christina's,
laughing. Yeah.
yeah. Christina, that's so interesting. The new book that I just wrote, The Abundance Experiment, has sisters and they're sort of playing off of each other. So I was thinking about what you're sharing. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. So it's good to keep that in mind. We'll come back to that at the end. But what I want to dive into is this slide, and I'm going to break it down more, but I want to talk about these stages, right? That Ed had alluded to, because there's so much power in just understanding where you are today and where you want to be tomorrow. And the goal with just me diving into this a little bit more is the idea that I think this could help you become more financially empowered no matter where you are. Okay. But I'm going to take you through the steps because maybe you've been there and now you're in a different place. And if you are like, you can honor yourself and all that you've done to get where you are as well, because not everybody's gotten where you are. So when this came to me, it made so many things make sense. So I'll just go through it. We're going to start at the bottom, but as you can see, we've got like self-empowerment, mindfulness, self-compassion. Like this is a pathway to self-empowerment. We want to use mindfulness and self-compassion every step of the way. But when we start out in financial instability, this is unfortunately the foundation for a lot of people throughout the world. There are a lot of people that still live in financial instability, partly because their conditions of what they're born into, but then also life has a way of knocking us down, and whether we can like help ourselves get through challenges and difficulties is a skill that I think we all want to learn. So this goes from financial instability all the way up to freedom. But I'm going to take you to the next step, which kind of describes what each of these look like. So financial instability probably goes without saying. This is a situation where we're unable to pay bills on time. We're living with a lot of uncertainty about covering our basic needs. And there's a lot of stress, right, around financial pressure and worries. And later on, I'm going to talk about like what we do to go from one step to the next, but I just want to describe these first. Then we move up to financial stability, which is where our basic needs are met with, we have enough savings to handle unexpected costs, right? We have an emergency fund. We've got that money available to us. We're able to make bill payments with room to save and plan ahead. And there's some peace of mind of having financial security and some goals. Maybe they're not super clear, but we aren't kind of running away from our situation, we can stay in financial stability for our whole lives. And that's part of the reason that this chart is really important to pay attention to, because I don't think we're here in life to live in stability. I would like to encourage and always inspire people that there's so much more. But this next transition, when we go into financial growth, this is when, I want to say this. Last time I gave this presentation, I got a lot of insight of people realizing that they worked so hard to get to financial stability, they didn't even understand what it would take to go to the next level. So this financial growth can be a big jump for people. This is when we start to take calculated risks with building wealth through investing, right? We start to invest in different ways. Now, maybe that's the stock market, maybe that's other forms, real estate or something else. This is when we're starting to grow income through skill development and strategic planning. Now, that's a big statement. Skill development can be, you realize that you're doing okay financially, but you want a promotion if you work for others. If you have a business and you're getting by with that business, this is a decision to invest in yourself and your skills so that you can charge more money, so that your business has a bigger container so that it can receive more money coming in. Hopefully that makes sense. But this is also a time of expanding financial knowledge while maintaining the stability that you work so hard to earn. Okay, I'm going to pause there. Ed, does any questions come up when I talk about that before I continue?
Yeah, no, I mean, we'll come to questions later, but this is all really
Okay, but
clear.
just for you, yeah.
Yeah, and it's very, very cool that you've highlighted the two different types of archetype of person first of all, so that you can see your way to work through these pyramids, as it were. Work your way up the pyramid by being who you are, and maybe getting help from a different archetype who might be more organized or more spontaneous, depending on what you need. But what's really interesting to me when you say about, you if you're in business, because a lot of people here are either they have their own business or they want to. So I think there's a really important distinction there where you say about, you can charge more money. Sometimes that charging more money means you just offer a different level of program or membership or whatever you do, or you stop working just with one-on-one work and maybe you have groups of people, or you put together some kind of online program or some kind of a group or a coaching group, rather than, you expand your thinking and you expand what you offer. So it might not be just that you charge more money for a client or whatever, a
Yes,
customer. You actually get more of them, or you offer them more different things, that kind of different
totally.
way. Yeah.
I was coaching one-to-one with some programs, group programs on the side until 2020 when my book came out, and I decided to redesign my business. And by changing it to a more one-to-many offering where we had higher level group programs, we tripled the income of the business, right? So it wasn't by me working more hours, it was by restructuring the way that I was supporting people. And that was it, that it fits into the financial growth bucket.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. I think, Lisa, you're a great example of kind of modeling and showing people by example of, if you're going to increase what you charge, or if you're going to take your value proposition, whatever, to a wider audience or to new audiences, you've got to embrace that value in yourself first. You've got to, I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but if you don't feel that value, if you don't own that value first, it's really hard to actually take that to the world, maybe.
Yes, we should come back to that. Somebody remember to talk about this. And I'll just say, like,
Absolutely.
coaching and growth, like, let's go there, because I think everybody can benefit from that. But I'll keep going on this and then we're almost there. So the
Absolutely.
next stage is financial independence. This is when your money starts to work for you. This is passive income streams. This is your money out there growing without you doing anything other than investing, for example, right? This is when financial decisions focus on long-term wealth preservation. This is when financial planning becomes really, really important, because you start to realize that you only have so much time, and your time is incredibly valuable, and you want to be really careful about how you're investing your time, and you want to have the time to play and enjoy life, not to be focused on your money all the time. So true freedom of choice in how you spend your energy and your time. And then finally, this financial freedom one is like where I said, like, I am in this stage, which is just an incredible privilege, but complete freedom to make choices based on values rather than financial necessity. This is when you start thinking about multi-generational wealth security, ensuring that you can help your family achieve the things that you've been able to achieve. And really, I feel like this applies to every phase. Is money serves as a tool for living your ideal life, not as a constraint. And I feel like that's kind of the motto that we want to be thinking about all the way along. And that's what these sorts of conversations are all about. So this is what it looks like. The other thing I just wanted to add, because this question was asked last time, was what are some of the things that we just need to do if we're ready to go to the next stage? And I'll go through these quickly. We're just about done with like my presentation part, but from financial instability, this is like very important goals. And this could be for you, could be for a family member. You want to help them figure out how to have an emergency savings. You want to help them manage debt wisely. You want to instill in them the belief that they can have a secure life. It's just a matter of the choices that they make. Going from financial stability to financial growth is about learning investing. It's about saving and building your assets. And it's often about increasing income. then moving from financial growth to financial independence. This is multiple income streams, investment growth, and less reliance on work, more on the strategy of like what you're wanting to create, because you hopefully have created a situation where there's lots of more passive income sources. And then ultimately, to freedom, it's about legacy, impact, and choices. So what I'd love to do is just, before we open it up to questions, is depending on how you thought of yourself, I just kind of felt into this. It's like for those spreadsheet superstars, I can never say this right. Like, what's your next step? Like, is there something that you are feeling a yearning to focus on or to learn more about? Because that's all we really had time to cover, is just like planting seeds right now. Do you want to learn more about investing? Do you want to learn more about growing your income? Like, just pick one thing. And I know if you pick one thing, you're going to be able to create a list of all the things that you need to do to get there. So that's my invitation to the planners. For the spontaneous spirits, like Ed and I would say, is something inspiring you? Please write that down and ask yourself, what can you do with that energy to help you get more of what you want? You just like spend a little bit of time, like take a picture of that, and like promise yourself that you're going to kind of feel into this, maybe watch this again, but like ask yourself, what is it that you really want and what are you inspired about? And then you can go over and pick one thing and maybe start to write a list of things that you want to do. And if you're a blend, then just, yourself, what calls to you most. Let's try to create a plan. And a plan may be, I'm going to read, The Mindful Millionaire. Like, you're going to go find some books that are going to help you. Like, if you like to audiobooks, like, what one thing can you do that will keep you moving in the direction of going to that next rung? Financial stability, growth, so on and so forth. And so, yeah, I'm going to stop sharing. That's my email address. If anybody has questions, feel free to reach out. Yeah.
Lisa, before you finish, and before you shut down the slide, it's really important. I want people to know where they can find you.
Yes.
Wealth Clinic, www.wealthclinic.com/vision. Okay. Really important that people can reach out to you or go to your website before we go to the Q&A, because we'll be, we'll be going into private members mode. But before we do, can you just tell us a little bit about your new book? Because I know it's not out yet, but it will be. I just want people to know there's something coming, and it's really fascinating, and tell people a little bit about that. But also some of the things that you can do, because maybe somebody here one day, someone might be close to Sedona. They might wonder if they're a fit for one of your retreats or one of the things that you do. Maybe just tell us a bit about some of the things you offered so that people are aware.
Yes, thank you. So a couple of years ago, my husband got cancer, and I shut a lot of things down in my business so that I could be available to him and that reevaluation process. And so in the course of that, I slowed down. I really asked myself, what is it that brings me the greatest joy in what I do? And retreats definitely came to the top. And so one of the ways that I haven't decided what next year is going to look like, I do know that I'm planning a retreat in Portugal in 2026 with a friend of mine who does retreats all over the world. But next year, I'm still working on it. But if you were to sign up for free gifts, you'll be notified of what those look like, whether they're in Sedona, in Hawaii, and other places in the world. And I'm happy to go anywhere because I'm always looking for a reason to travel. So just planting seeds out there. If you want me to come to you, we could make magic happen. But the reason, because I'm all about impact, one thing I will say about my retreats is it's very important to me to make them as low cost as possible so that people get the opportunity who might not otherwise be able to do something like this. So I'm always interested in showing up where I'm going to make the biggest difference. I love retreats because we come together 3, 4, 5 days, and people come to my retreats over and over. I can only speak from their language. They leave a different person And the person they leave as is more true to who they really are than they've felt perhaps in their whole lifetime. It seems remarkable to me that that could happen in such a short amount of time, but I've been hosting retreats for 20 years. I started doing this way before I left my financial advising, because that time I was involved in a spiritual community. But I figured out how to create very safe environments, whether it be in my workshops or in my retreats, so that people can clear out all the trash and get down to business of why we're really here in this life and what it is that's going to take us. What do we need to bust through to create a life of greater abundance? The new book is something I'm super proud of. I am going to be, it's going to be coming out on Mother's Day of 2025. It's called The Abundance Experiment, totally inspired by, Ed and his use of the word abundance, which continues to make a difference in my life. The Mindful Millionaire is a nonfiction book. The Abundance Experiment has come through in a parable form. So a fictional story about a 34-year-old woman who goes to Paris. This was inspired by my own experience that happened in 2023. I took a client who inspired my book to Paris to show her Paris for the first time. She had never been to Europe. And I thought I was going to be showing her abundance. And what happened in Paris changed my life forever, because she showed me what it truly means to live in abundance. So I started writing what had happened for us in Paris, and it became a character that Mirabelle and Leila, and you get to go through this journey in less than 200 pages of Mirabelle's story of seeing abundance in Paris and then coming back home and kind of blowing up her life and questioning all the assumptions. And her husband doesn't like it very much, and things happen at work and all kinds of challenges, but she ultimately hires a coach, and the coach helps her to realize the abundance that's truly in her life today, regardless of the money. But the way that she gets there and the exercises are all in the book. That's why it's a fictional parable. What also happens is every chapter, they're kind of like fast action chapters. A lot happens, and then you get a couple questions. So you go through the journey right alongside of Mirabelle. You're like living it. And you might read the book all the way through because it's a really fun, interesting story. But the power is in the journaling. And I've witnessed 140 people around the world doing this journaling as I was writing the book, and I've never seen anything like it. Something magical happens when we're activated by someone else's story that gets all of our stuff to go away, and we get to be like learning and growing, but it's way easier and way more fun when we get to watch the other person fall down and go through their challenges. So I'm really, really, really excited about it.
That's awesome. Thanks, Leisa.
We hope you have enjoyed today's episode of The Transformational Ripple Effect. If you got lots of value from this content, be sure to go and visit edlester.com/help to find out how the Transform 3 Mastermind can help you live your very best and most impactful and abundant life too.